Hello everyone! So as you can probably tell, I am super pumped for this video that I'm about to film, and that's because I'm going to be showing you guys my graphic novel collection. So as a kid, I read a few Beano manuals, but I never really got into comics as a medium. And then one day, in a charity shop a couple of years ago, I saw these two. Now, I am super into the TV show series. It was my absolute favourite as a teenager, and I've rewatched it many times since. I'm actually rewatching it at the moment, which is kind of what prompted me to want to film this video. But yeah, I saw these, so I thought I'm not really into graphic novels, but I'll give it a try. And it turns out the reason I wasn't into graphic novels was because I hadn't really given them much of a read as an adult. And I loved them, like, hang on. So the style for these Heroes ones was really very similar to the art style in the show, which I really liked. And the characters, you could tell who the characters were, but they had their own unique twists as well that were unique to the graphic novel series. And I say series, I was very disappointed upon finishing Volume 2 to realise they didn't actually make a Volume 3. So, I mean, if they ever did, I would 100% buy it. But the really cool thing was, these filled in the gaps in the TV series, as well as adding on completely new stories. And I really loved just learning more about the Heroes universe. And I thought, you know, what are some other really cool graphic novels I could get into to learn more about the universe? And so, for my birthday, my husband bought me these, because I'm also really into Once Upon a Time. And these were, again, just a really cool, fun way of expanding the universe. And the two of those series together, their graphic novel series together, really got me into the graphic novels as a medium. And so I started expanding and finding more. So I thought one of the best places to start with graphic novels is the Scott Pilgrim series. It's very fun, very comic-y. Now, these ones, unlike the other ones I've written, aren't full colour. These are all black and white, which at first I thought would be an issue, but really you get used to it very quickly because the Scott Pilgrim series is very much kind of a tongue-in-cheek series, and the fun is with the writing and the plot and the pictures themselves, so they don't really need the colour to be exciting. So I very much enjoyed those, and I got this one, Seconds, which is another one by Brian Lee O'Malley, and it was full colour, which was brilliant. Now, this one was really interesting because it kind of had a lot more dialogue and writing than I'm used to in most of the graphic novels. Like, a lot of the pages have a large amount of, like, text on them, whereas the pictures themselves are kind of standalone. So you have some comic strip sections that are pretty much panels are all writing, and some which are just completely picture with no writing at all. And it was a really interesting new style, and the Seconds itself is a really weird and intriguing concept, and I feel like the first time you read it, there's not much payoff for the first 2/3 of the book, and then the pacing just rapidly speeds up towards the end, and you're just hooked, you know, turning the page, you have to know what happens next. And I feel like this is very much a graphic novel that if you were to reread it, knowing what happens at the end, you'll notice more stuff towards the start of the book that would really make a lot more sense. So this is definitely going to be one that I'm going to be rereading just to see what it is like rereading it, knowing what I know happens at the end. Now, I've got a couple of other standalone graphic novels. So this one is called Nimona, which is this little character right here. The art style is, again, really cute and unique. I was really happy with it. So, and it has a really good balance of writing to pictures. So as you can see, there's the sort of style, and I really liked the use of colour and the use of negative space to really create the scene. And the story of this one is, I won't spoil it, but essentially it's this little girl, she desperately wants to be an apprentice to this evil sort of dark wizard and stuff, and it's kind of one of those rare books where you get it from the villain's perspective, but made to like the villain, and you learn more and more about this character Nimona towards the end. And yeah, I won't spoil it for you, but it definitely has an ending I wasn't expecting, and it was really good, really engaging read. But I don't think I've ever come across a graphic novel I haven't actually enjoyed, but I'll give you one of the other ones I've got. So again, this was a treat from my husband. He saw it in Forbidden Planet, and he knows how much I like the film, so he got it for me. So this is a sequel to the film, actually. So this is the senior year of the characters from Clueless, which is a typical chick flick teen drama movie, which, again, they're like my guilty pleasure. I love a good teen drama. So this was brilliant. One thing I loved is the characters are so true to how they are in the movie. Like, you know, I've found often with adaptations either to book or to graphic novel to any other format, things from movies or TV shows, the characters, there can be a very clear disconnect, whereas with this one, I know they got the actual writers from the movie to help with this, which I think is why they were able to keep it so consistent, because the characters really are exactly like they are in the film. The style of it, the humour, everything is really similar, so it's a really cool flowing from the movie to the graphic novel. It's a perfect medium to continue the story, and yeah, I just loved this, read it in a couple of days, and it was just, again, like, very simplistic art style, this one, actually. It's a lot more minimalist than others I've seen, so I don't know if you can sort of see the face, but there's not very much detail in, but because of the way the story is written, it doesn't really matter, you know, you get the important information, you know where the characters are and who the characters are, and that's all you really need. Now, ones that have a bit more detail are the DC ones. So I really like Marvel movies, but I'm not overly fussed on the comics for Marvel, whereas Batman and the DC Universe I absolutely love. So I haven't actually read this one yet, I'll admit. It was kind of a spur of the moment purchase because it was on mega sale. I think it was on like $2.99 or $3.99 or something like ridiculous, because yeah, it was an absolute bargain, so I just had to get this one. So I need to read that, but I've got Batman, Death in the Family, and The Killing Joke. Again, I haven't actually read The Killing Joke yet, but I have seen the movie they made for it a couple of years ago, which was really cool. And A Death in the Family was brilliant because it has one of the stories from 1988, as well as the 2006 follow-up story. And what's really interesting about this one, and it's not a spoiler because it happened like 30 odd years ago, so sorry, if you don't know what happens, that's your fault, not mine. So basically, they actually kill off one of the Robins, and what's really interesting about the way they do it, though, is they actually held a vote and asked the readers to choose whether they kept him alive or whether they killed him, and the sadistic readers decided to kill him. So, yeah, it says on the back, so the year was 1988, the 50th anniversary of The Dark Knight Detective, and his fans had been given an unprecedented opportunity to decide the outcome of one of his most pivotal stories. The choice? Whether to keep the status quo of Batman and Robin, the dynamic duo, or return Batman to what he once was, a brooding, one-man war on crime. A vote was held, the results were honoured, and history was made. Following his most devastating defeat, Robin was killed, and Batman was once again Gotham's lone protector. So, yeah, it's a really interesting story to read, especially knowing that Robin is going to die. So it lets you get attached to him before just... And the Joker in this is really evil, really sadistic, not toned down at all. And it was just a really engaging, powerful, dark read, exactly what Batman should be. It was gritty and gruesome, and it had real, like, consequences to his actions. And it was just an absolute brilliant... brilliant Batman story, so well worth checking out if you're into Batman and the DC Universe. Right, what have we got next? Oh, so these are probably my favourite graphic novels. This is the Archie series, and the eagle-eyed amongst you probably noticed that Volume 2 is missing, and I have got Volume 2, but it's at my nan's because I read it whilst I was at hers last time. So, but yeah, I'm going to show you some of the covers for it because I absolutely adore the art style on the covers. So Volume 2 is missing. This is Volume 3, so that's Cheryl Blossom. Volume 4. Volume 5. I really like the cover for this one. And I think Volume 6 is my favourite cover because, yeah, just look at it. It's elegant, it's sophisticated, it's awesome. And so the Archie series is... So Archie was a comic that's been going on for decades now, and it was the inspiration for the TV series Riverdale. However, I would say... don't read the graphic novels expecting it to be identical to Riverdale, because these are more true to the original Archie comics rather than the actual show, because the show went off in a different direction. So a lot of the events and characters in this are either completely different or just sort of similar, but there are significant changes essentially between these graphic novels and there are in the TV series, but I actually quite liked that because much as I do enjoy the TV series, it's more of a guilty pleasure because I don't think it's actually particularly good, whereas these graphic novels are brilliant. They're so light-hearted, the humour is just right, spot on throughout the whole thing. The art style is gorgeous. Hang on. Like, look at that. It is so brilliant. So, like, I love full colour graphic novels. You know, I very rarely check out black and white ones, the exception being the Scott Pilgrim ones. So one thing I really love about these as well is they have special features at the end. So this is at the end of book 1, and it shows all the potential cover variants they had before they decided on the one to go on the very front. But they had a bunch of different artists. So there's so many different styles there. And they got it for all of the issues within, because volume 1 has about 6 issues in it, I think, of the comic, because it was released in comic form before being compiled. It also explains how it's made, so from like script to finished product, which I thought is really cool to sort of show us that. And they also give us a preview for Jughead, because as well as making just the Archie comics, so these are revamped by Mark Waid, is sort of head person overlooking the revamp of the Archie graphic novels, and they've got a bunch of other ones as well. So they've got Betty and Veronica, they've got Jughead, they've got Riverdale, Road to Riverdale rather, and just, yeah, it's a really cool universe to be involved with, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on with it. And last but certainly not least, we have, hang on, Fables. So Fables is one of the bigger names in the graphic novel industry, so this was one I was recommended many times when I was asking sort of nerdy people that I know what some good graphic novels to get into. Well, back when I was, because I've only been collecting for a couple of years, so I'm sure plenty of people have a lot more graphic novels than I do, but I like to think I've got quite a varied collection, so I hope it's been interesting for you guys to see. But yeah, essentially Fables is really cool, and it's similar to Once Upon a Time in a way. So it imagines a world where fairy tale characters are living in our world, but unlike Once Upon a Time, this is very sort of dark. So in this universe, they all were banished from, well, not banished, they chose to exile themselves from the fairy tale lands because there was like a big bad, which isn't fully developed yet, called the Adversary, and essentially, he was chasing down and killing everyone, and the only world he couldn't get to was the Mundi world, which is our world where magic doesn't exist. And so it essentially shows loads of stories based on characters who, you know, hated each other in the other world, but were forced out of necessity to all come to here and, like, live amongst each other. So there's some really cool stories in there. There's 2 very distinct art styles. They've got one set of art, one art style for the cover, which I'll admit I'm not overly fussed on, but in the actual book, it's a lot more light and cartoony, but at the start of each new section, they have, again, art styles very similar to the cover, where it's, oh wow, this is an amazing spread I've just found and I have to show you. Like, look at the detail on that. Like, the detail in the Fables graphic novels is absolutely extraordinary. They care for every little tiny thing. You know, there's so many different characters that they develop and consistently portray the same. They have so much going on in each panel. It's such an amazing art style. It's such an amazing use of the space, and the story is fantastic and engaging. The characters are brilliant, well-rounded, and they all sort of complement each other in a way. So you've got some characters that are truly good, some are truly evil, and some are in between, which I really like. And I was very lucky, my mother-in-law got these for me actually. So these were the deluxe editions, so they have special features at the end. So, one second, just going to get to those for you. So one of the special features in this, as well as a foreword, is they have really cool initial character sketches for the different characters. Hang on. Yeah, so they have a bunch of these at the back, and it's just, I just really love, once I've grown to love a story, once I've got engaged and read the entire thing, to be able to see some behind the scenes stuff at the back of the graphic novel is really interesting for me, and so I really love these deluxe editions that do that. Currently only read the first 3 because, and I'll tell you exactly why. Basically, Volume 4, for some reason, the deluxe edition of it was like, had really short print time, which means whilst these ones, you know, they're not cheap, but they're not crazy expensive, whereas Volume 4, you'd have to look at getting it sort of second-hand from a dealer for about £100, and you can get the non-deluxe edition, but I'm so hesitant to, like, I like my collection to be all of one thing, so it would look really annoying on my shelf to have 3 deluxe editions and then the not deluxe edition. So I'm still holding out hope that one day I'll walk into a comic shop and see it there just at a regular comic price. So I think if that doesn't happen by like the end of this year, then I'll probably end up caving and buying the non-deluxe edition, but I'm still holding out hope that I will find the deluxe edition to keep going with my collection. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. It was really fun to kind of reminisce about my different stories I've read. I'm still very much looking to expand my graphic novel collection. I've got a bunch on my to-purchase list or put it on my birthday list and hope someone else will get it for me. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your favourite graphic novels are and I'll consider putting them on my list to give a read as well. And yeah, please do subscribe, like, comment, everything, all that jazz, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.